Okay, hello and welcome back to another episode of the Table Talk podcast. I think it's only been about 10 years, so we're hitting a pretty good release cycle this time around. Hoping to do something... Oh, I've got them on the wrong screen. I changed my screen. Let's see. That's going to be a problem. Man, I actually love that intro, too. It just is a crying shame.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was.
Look, I'm not going to shrug anything. This is going to be a really funny intro when the Discord screen comes in from the other side. But now I'm going to look to the right. And for next episode, I will make sure I fix this. Oh, okay. So I'm just going to sit over here. Going to look to the right because that's where Austin is on my screen. Hi. Sorry. Might cut some of that out. But welcome back to the Table Talk podcast. This is a podcast. We used to have a bunch of different sort of sections and things. I'm Miles. And
I'm Austin.
Between us, we probably, man, I hate to admit it, we've probably been playing D&D combined for like 30 years, but like each one of us probably about like 15 years of D&D. I think I got into Pathfinder a little before 2010, a little bit, but like I was like a little baby player myself. I think both of us, for a long string of time of us playing D&D, have been DMs the entire time that we have been playing, and we needed an excuse to talk to each other again because we live in different states in the U.S., and so we wanted to start doing this podcast again. And our technology standards from college had actually gotten a lot better and easier. We're better than we were. So yeah, we figured out how to do this damn thing.
Yeah.
Okay, and so today, I think our main topic, which we're going to talk about in a minute, is this is going to screw up with the recording again, but we're going to talk about this YouTuber. I forget his name. I might throw it up on screen here. I'm giving myself a lot of things to do in post right now, but and I'll probably link him in the doobly-doo below. But he sort of talked about this. He has this Patreon zine that he releases called the Broadsheet, I believe is what it's called. And in his latest chapter, which accompanied one of the YouTube videos that he made, he talks specifically about a set of dungeoneering rules, kind of OSR. Austin, do you know what OSR means?
I do not know what OSR means.
I've heard it as a couple of different things. It's like old school rules is the way that I've heard it. Like I've heard something else for like the R name at the end of that. But yeah, so OSR, old school rules, it's basically anything 3.5 and before, I believe. I could be getting that wrong, and I'm sure that if anybody of renown watches this, or who's like a super huge nerd of D&D will correct me. But so he had this set of rules in there that were specific to dungeoneering, which was such a concept of OSR, which gets into a thing that I want to talk about in another video. But I want to open the conversation with this video, which I believe I already know the answer to this because I think we talked about it the last time we talked, Austin. But Baldur's Gate 3.
What about it?
You played it, right?
No, I still haven't played it.
You still haven't played it? Oh, shoot. Okay.
I am OSR like to the extreme. I have a PS4 and a PlayStation 1.
I don't think you can apply OSR to I get you. You're old school.
I am OS. Take out the R. I'm OS.
Yeah. Oh, and I know. I got asked this really interesting question today, and so I'm gonna follow this lead a little bit, but it was did I think that Baldur's Gate 3 made me a better DM? And like, you know a little bit about Baldur's Gate.
Yeah. I've seen playthroughs and I've seen other people play it, so I know some of it. But yes. Yeah,
and I think my answer to them was like not in the ways you would expect, like in really specific ways. I think it has made me a better DM. And so I gave them a really circuitous answer, but I'll try to like make this as concise as possible. I think playing D&D makes you a better DM.
Yes.
Right? I think like not being the DM and playing, like I feel like you need that player's perspective, and I think you need to do like a lot of that personally. I don't think it's, and other DMs have said this a million times, like it's not required to like be a player before you are a DM. Like don't get that
Mhm.
twisted. But I think you should seek to play the game as soon as possible because playing the game, and if you can't play the game, if you're never gonna find a table, play Baldur's Gate 3 because it like it's DMing for you kind of thing. But it
Yeah.
gives you an idea of what players' toolkits are, and sort of like this idea that I've heard Brendan Lee Mulligan say through a lot of his interviews is like this idea of knowing what your players have as a DM, and it's
Mhm.
like, okay, I recognize that you guys have these skills. Like there is a cleric in the party. I will put you in a crypt fighting undead at some time, so that cleric can use turn undead, so it doesn't feel like
Yeah.
a throwaway skill. And so
Yeah.
Baldur's Gate made me a better DM because it taught me all those toolkits. And your world as a DM is going to be populated by characters with the same skills as your players, and
Mhm.
so getting to play those things makes you like it gets you that knowledge without like you can find all of it in the book if you want to read it cover to cover, but
Yeah.
playing it gives you that experience of like, oh, like that's a rogue's uncanny dodge. That's a really good method of like doing damage differently because the prevailing
Mhm.
theme that I hear online is like this notion of the way I tried to fix my game was I made enemies have just like a huge health pool, and then that sucked.
Yeah, that's not fun. Yeah. Yeah, no.
Right, and so there's ways in D&D to obfuscate that, but
Mhm.
yeah, I think it made me a better DM. I think Baldur's Gate 3 made everybody better DMs because it did this really great thing. So this is I'm only going to talk about these two things, right? So it's like
Yeah.
perspective is the first thing, which I just talked about, and the second thing is like skill checks. I think people
Mm.
weren't using skill checks. I think at a novice level, maybe at a like experienced table, people were using skill checks. But I think like when you're
Yeah.
just getting into D&D and it's so much coming at you, um, I think people didn't understand where they're supposed to implement skill checks, particularly like in dialogues to like add that dice roll to like you're talking. And so DMs would make these
Mhm.
kind of arbitrary decisions and it would grade on people, but it's like, no, just like
Yeah.
let the dice make every decision, man. And so like Baldur's Gate
Mhm.
3 was like the entire D&D community had this like really easy, it's $60, but it's $60 for a player's handbook.
Yeah.
This $60 entry to say, hey, like here's where you should do an insight check, here's where you should do a persuasion check, here's a situation where this might be, so it just gave you good
Mhm.
examples.
Yeah,
um,
so do you think it made you a better DM also because like it helped you write a more cohesive story from that perspective as well, or do you think more so like just on the gameplay wise?
I think it offers a really good example about how to interweave multiple stories. And I think D&D
Hmm.
being such a game about like one of the main draws, like if you don't have it in there, it's fine, but I think one of the main draws for roleplay is like typically a mystery, and a really
Yeah.
easy way to do mystery is to like here's the world building, multiple people were here in this place. As you investigate it, you recognize where like you're kind of untangling the knot of like here's all these people who were
Hmm.
here was one person doing this, here's one person doing that, and so the player has to think about multiple things and find out what things relate to each other, and
Hmm.
so without having to like design a mystery, just through the obfuscation of what happened, uh,
Hmm.
it becomes a mystery, so it's like
Yeah.
it's easier to craft. So did that answer your question?
Mhm.
Sorry, I
Yeah, yeah, I did.
okay.
Yeah, I think like from my perspective on it is like as long as the story is good, you can keep players longer than if just like the gameplay is good.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like for me, I always try to like craft a story that has a really good like end game.
Hmm.
And while I was young, I mean, even now, like there's gameplay mistakes that I make, but like because it's fun and because the story is captivating, players keep coming back.
Right.
So I like I would agree that like the Baldur's Gate community definitely helped players like learn or sorry how to make like a DM make a better story that's going to keep players coming back. Because even though
Hmm.
because you go to like what's it level 5 or something like that at the end.
Baldur's Gate goes all the way up to level 12, actually.
Oh, geez, I was way off.
Hmm.
But like, you don't have to have these like level 20 god level threats.
Right.
You can have these progressively getting tough threats that weave into that story. And I think like that did a great job of like making the story fun. And
Yeah.
that's why I would agree with you that like even someone who has never played it but knows about it and knows like how the story goes, like makes me want to make stories like that, and in turn makes me a better DM.
Right. Oh, well, and then just to add a little bit of context on top of that for Baldur's Gate, for anybody else who's listening who might not have played, the friends that we're making this show for will have absolutely played Baldur's Gate. So hilarious. But uh, the um, the thing about Baldur's Gate is that it's got a 3 act structure, right? Each act comprises like easily 24 hours of gameplay if you're like really digging into all the nooks and cranny. It might actually be a little less than that, but as memory serves, like I always think of Act One being this one chunk, but it's actually like 3 chunks, and they all like sprawl out. And so it's like when you're talking about what Baldur's Gate 3 specifically has to offer for play and stuff, it gives you so much of a use case of like a good story. And you talk about those like really big end game things, but I mean, the first section you end it when you're like maybe level 5 or 6, and that's
Mm-hmm.
still encapsulated in this big story where you have these big face-offs with villains that are like sort of set up. And so it's like, while
Yeah.
it's not the like, oh, we're gonna go become demigods and like go fight gods.
Yeah.
There's even a portion in the first act of Baldur's Gate where you go to do you know what a Githyanki is?
Yeah.
Okay, right on. I had never known about that piece of
Oh, really?
yeah, before that game. I think Baldur's Gate also made me naturally more curious about what's out there. Because Githyanki's are so
Yeah.
core to like this mind flayer like thing, but I never like
Hmm.
wanted to have those in my campaign, so I never. Now I'm trying to like put in like everything in the monster manual at some point, but
Side note that I have to pull up.
Mhm.
Have you heard of a mind flare dragon?
No.
Okay. Well, that's something to look into.
Yeah.
Basically, the mind flare will like get a dragon egg and then raise it, and then it gets like into the hive, and the hive sits on its back, and it like travels with the dragon, and
Oh.
like is like a traveling hive. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I'll find it. I'll send it to you.
Okay. Cool. That would be cool to.
Yeah. But it's like stuff like that. It's like I got really interested in like mind flares because I think mind flares were underrated, and now they're moderately rated just because of how integral to the plot they are.
Yeah.
But like all this stuff about mind flares got brought up, and I'm like, oh my god! Then it was like new monster manual or like a dragon manual or something like that came
Yeah.
out, and I'm like, oh my god, a mind flare dragon, like that's nuts. So
Oh, was that one of
stuff
the
like that.
like third party things where they were just like, here's all like it's compendium of dragons type book?
No, it was like an official D
Oh
and D
wow,
book.
wow, that's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. I'll
Um,
find it. I'll send it
okay.
to you. But
Um,
anyways,
well,
but like you like bring up the Gith Yankee. It's like you might not have ever looked that up without Baldur's Gate 3. You know,
exactly.
without it being so integral.
Yeah, I'm like looking at the cover art and I'm like, who's this weird looking orc? You know,
You're
like
like, what?
what is that?
Like, is that an elf? Is that like what is that?
Then you're in playing the game and they're going like Keshval, and like they talk the Gith Yang language, and they like
Yeah.
it's like it's very obvious not orc, and you're like, huh?
Huh?
Well, and so you go to a Githyanki creche in the game, which is like one of their hubs basically,
Yeah.
and you're trying to like pull a mind flare parasite out of your head, but you through circumstance you take audience with this god because they're trying to get this artifact from you, and
Yeah.
if you piss the god off, which I have a really funny adage about this, like she will wish you dead in that moment. And so it's like it's a game where at that point you are level 6 and you are facing off against characters who are level 20, right? And like
Yeah.
it's like through a device, so like the suggestion is that like that character is uh like far away, like it's not a direct face off,
Yeah.
um but like they can influence you in that way, and so it's just like it's really cool because you can still tell a story that never gets to like the gods and stuff, but like you
Yeah.
can put players into a situation where it's like, how do you deal with gods and like keep it at like that level 5, level 6 storytelling?
Yeah.
So
Well, like in that same vein, I think introducing like stronger characters is important.
mhm.
Um, especially from the perspective of if you have a character who thinks that they're hot stuff and they're doing things
Ooh.
trying to cheese it, or they're like being super strong, they have no like threat, or they have no reason to keep getting stronger, they might just fall into that habit of not trying. But if
Mm-hmm.
you introduce like a god that hates them, they're like, ah, crap, like I gotta level up, I gotta get stronger, I gotta get other friend gods. Like
Mm-hmm.
it kind of makes them more in the plot than just playing the game, if that makes sense.
No, that totally it makes you feel like you're more part of a world, right? Because it's like not everything is built for you to win. And I guess personally, I try to make it so that players have opportunities to make those mistakes, and I signpost them a lot. It's like you're going into this challenge, you're going into this challenge, you're going into this challenge, and so that's a whole thing for a discussion for another time of like when do you put the players against a challenge that is not designed for them to win or have a chance in really.
Yeah. Well, I also think, and again, not to get too deep in the reads
Right.
with this, but like newer players are more than likely to not run away from a challenge, where experienced ones have that knowledge of this isn't going to end well for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you have newer players, you almost have to almost tell them outright, like,
Mm-hmm.
go away. But like even for me, I had a
Yeah.
level one, I think it was a fighter, or it was no, no, yeah, yeah. It was a fighter, and a dragon popped up and was chasing us, and I tried to fight the dragon. Like I'm like, oh, I can take him. You know, I just got to tank, 20 hits. I'll be fine. And like
Well,
it
because
was
you don't
dumb.
know, you don't
And
have any frame of
yeah,
reference. You're like, oh yeah, this is Dungeons and Dragons. I'm supposed to fight dragons.
it's like no, you got to leave till you're strong. It's like, oh, okay. And then I
Mm-hmm.
ended up dying, and then they brought me back, and they're like, yeah, don't do that. I'm like, yeah, I learned my lesson. I'm not gonna do that.
I
Like,
had a very similar
oh, you got to
experience
learn.
playing Pathfinder my first time with a shambling mound.
Hmm.
Like it was the exact same thing. It's like, oh yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know, this is the monster that the DM's put in front of me, and it's like everybody else is running, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna hit it. It's like, oh,
yeah.
should have followed everyone else's lead.
Should have followed. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, oh, so okay, so I'll circle back around to the adage, and then we'll talk about today's actual topic.
Okay.
But yeah, so some of our friends, myself and some of our friends, are playing Baldur's Gate 3 right now. I'm playing two different
Mhm.
sessions with two different groups of friends of Baldur's Gate 3 specifically.
Mhm.
The game has a lot of branching paths, so that it's like I'm not even bored playing it, and I've played it once before, so it's like I'm actually surprised that it's got this much legs. But uh,
Okay.
we're in that situation where it's like I just told you the goddess is like telling you like if you piss her off, she's gonna kill you, and I
Yeah.
know this, and so we just won this fight, and it sucked. The entire fight sucked, and our one buddy, Sean, uh, like he's running the conversation, and so we're all telling him like multiple times, hey, like don't piss her off. She'll like wipe. We didn't get a chance to save. Like don't piss her off, and like he's just kind of like trolling us this entire run. So he's just like, oh, I'll
Oh
just make
no.
decisions I haven't made before. And so he makes that decision, and we all wipe, and we have to restart the entire fight. And we're all
No.
groaning. We're like, we told you so many times. We told you so many times. Like what? Like, why weren't you listening? So that was very recently. That was like a couple months ago.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that does bring up something that else we can talk about, that like in the game, because you have a save file, you're allowed to like to make those mistakes, whereas in like D&D, like proper, if you make that mistake, you have to
oh
restart, right? So like the game allows you to make those mistakes, whereas like a tabletop proper doesn't as much. So I mean, that's interesting for sure.
yeah, BG3 is training for D&D, and in the same way, it is a separate like DM. Like when you're in a training exercise, obviously
Yeah.
there's things you can't simulate that are like real life. And so
Yeah.
Baldur's Gate also makes some weird decisions because you get people who come from Baldur's Gate. They're like, "What? This is how it works in that game." It's like I always have to tell people like that. I'm like, "Well, Baldur's Gate 3 was your DM then, and it made some decisions. I'm a new DM, and I don't agree with that Baldur's Gate 3 decision because it's not
Oh.
even as rules written. They make some choices that are not as rules
Mhm.
written." And
Yeah.
so that I think that's been my easiest way to like onboard people from
I th-
Baldur's Gate 3.
I think that would be for sure the easiest way to kind of have that conversation.
Yeah.
I mean,
Um,
because like even when you go from one DM to the other, like there's gonna be different styles or different things how they do it. So I think introducing the idea of people running it differently early or when they're just coming out of that game, I think is super like nice to them and helpful in general. So
Yeah,
good on you. Good on you.
the Baldur's Gate 3 to playing D&D pipeline is a lot friendlier, I think, than like the Critical Role to playing D&D, like being a Critical Role watcher and then finally
Ooh.
getting to play
Mhm.
D&D pipeline.
Uh yes. So yeah, we have so much to talk about. So I've had players in the past that like just watched Critical Role and then jump in and expect me to be Matt Mercer on the first go
Yep.
around. I'm like no, like he's a different DM. Like my stories are good, but they're not Matt Mercer level good. Like that man can create anything any given time without, I mean, obviously he does prep work, but like he's just ready to go. And like that's not how actual DMing is a lot of the time. Like he's like tippy top for a reason, and they have a good show for a reason, you know. And so I would definitely agree with you that going from Critical Role to D&D and going from BG3 to D&D is a lot smoother transition,
Yeah,
just for like that reason of it being user friendly.
the bad habits from BG3 are like very easy to escape, I feel like, than like Critical Role when you've made this thing like this beloved thing. Oh, I think one of us lost connection. Hang on. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm
Okay,
still here. Are you
your
still there?
your video was frozen for a moment, so just making sure. Um,
It's all
so
good.
I think there's this thing that happens with the Critical Role effect as well, and I'll try to be really
Mhm.
brief about this, but the Critical Role effect, uh, it players who come to the table and like, well, you're not Matt Mercer, like it's such a weird blame game because it's like, well, yeah, you're not like Ashley Johnson or
Yeah, you're not Travis Willingham. And you're not Laura Bailey.
right, you're not Laura Bailey. So like, how dare you? Like, sorry, I shouldn't come at this so indignantly, because even
Yeah.
like Matt Mercer is like, I never got in this for people to compare their DMs to me. Like, I wanted people to be playing the game because I love the game.
Mhm.
But it's like you're not Laura Bailey, so like have a smidge of humility and recognize that like it's not just because of Matt Mercer that those campaigns are fun to watch. He's got a bunch of
Agreed.
improvists. He's got bunch of people who are very good at improv. A bunch of actors sitting
Yeah.
at his table, and
Mhm.
they are like talking behind the scenes a lot about the narrative they're constructing and the ideas that they have of where they're going to lead the characters. It's not just like
Yeah.
happening, uh,
Yeah. It's
like.
it's it's a whole production for a reason.
Mm.
Like,
Well, and there's some degree of like it's still an improv production, so there's that chaos, right? Like the dice rolls and everything, and like
yeah.
what does the character say in the moment? Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, like your table is probably not going to be Critical Role, but it can feel like Baldur's Gate 3. I think very really easily it can feel like Baldur's Gate 3.
Interesting. So
Yeah.
like you would say that it because Baldur's Gate is more like a beginning level campaign compared to like Critical Role as being like an end game type thing.
No, I think it's the fact that the characters in Baldur's Gate are NPCs, like actual computer generated characters. So when I leave
Oh.
Baldur's Gate, all my like let's say I played it by myself, all my companions were just like a video game character. So regardless of how well their performance was, they were still a video game character. So I don't get
Hmm.
this weird like social pariah thing going on where I like go to the table and expect everybody else to be actors because I only ever interface with the machine. And so it's all like pre-scripted and
Oh.
everything else, right? So it's like once I get to the table and I'm playing with other players, I don't have a sense for how it is to play at a table with other players, and so I just enjoy
Yeah.
it for what it is.
Oh. I would have never thought that. Like
That's
that's
my.
an interesting. Yeah.
Your mileage can vary. I'm
Yeah,
sure
yeah.
many people will disagree with me.
Yeah. I'm sure. There's always a disagreement somewhere, so.
Yeah,
But
which
yeah,
is
so
a terrible segue into our. Well, maybe it's a good segue because
maybe.
we don't know where either of us lie on this opinion. So every week, just
Mhm.
to give everybody else a behind the scenes sort of thing, not every week, every month, so to speak, like however often me and Austin are getting together to record these things, we create. Or sorry, one of us is going to give each other kind of a prompt to talk about, and then we're going to spend uh, like 15 to 30 minutes talking about that prompt, more likely on the 30-minute side. But as I've already given it all the fanfare it needs, this is the broadsheets dungeoneering rules from the OSR. And just to give everybody, all the folks at home a highlight of this, I am going to pull this screen back over real quick. So, Austin, I can't see you right now. And nor can the viewers at home. But I have open immediately page 41 of the thing, the thing that talks about the dungeoneering rules immediately. And well, like this is this guy's product, but just so people get like an idea of what it is, I'm only going to show this first page, and then I'll talk about the rest of the rules. But what these rules are is that when you enter a dungeon, it has like a macro scale of a combat essentially, and so how that appears is through these like 10-minute stretches. Basically the characters can take a from a list of common actions. They can every 10 minutes they can basically do one of these like kind of vague broader actions in the space, and then time passes, and so the players are tracking time. And this allows for the DM to sort of like set up random encounters, because the DM can decide like every period of time, like I'm going to roll on this monster table and decide like if these monsters appear and then which monsters it is that appear. So it's like there's wandering monsters around the dungeons, which I love this idea because it answers a question. And if you go to the video that I'm almost certain I will link in this, this YouTuber talks about it and he like explains it much better than how we're explaining it. But this is almost like a review of it, if anything. He sort of like outlines all these like rules that you can do, and I've played this at the table now, and I have my own thoughts about it. But I think that's the broad strokes. Was there anything that I missed about it,
No,
Austin?
like that's I think that's a great segue. And then just for like context, I have not applied this to a game yet. But I'm curious as far as like your experience, and I have quite a few like questions or suggestions or things I like to add on. So
You want me to
all on you,
lead?
buddy.
Okay.
Yeah,
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 I've
yes.
tried it, so I'll.
Just because you've actually done it, yeah.
Yeah, I think immediately. So when you look at this, the actions, I'll just go over their titles: casting a spell, helping out, interacting, keeping watch, loot everything, move quietly, search area, take your time. And so, like, oh, cool. First problem here: players got to know more rules. Tough, very tough.
Gotta add on new
Especially
stuff, yeah.
yeah, especially when you have a beginner who's just trying to figure out normal D&D, and like part of the reason that we're in a 5th edition world for all the gripes that people have with it is that it's the easiest to pick up and play. And I don't even think it's easy to pick up and play in that context, but it's like you go to another one and you can have like an hour-long conversation about like one mechanic if you go to like Pathfinder or some of these older games stuff. And so what these do is like in play, so I'll talk about the session that I did. In play, how these were kind of reacted to was like, it was a bit too rigid. It was like, it's the sense of like you have options, but now you no longer have that role-playing space where like now I'm in this space and I can do anything. And so the DM doesn't have to lead the players, but you still get that like syndrome of like the players are looking at the DM like, what do I do? And so one of my characters just kept moving quietly, and it was like, oh, now this doesn't really make a lot of sense, because unless they can see an enemy in the space, why would they be trying to move quietly? Or like, you have to sell this idea on the front end. And there's a little bit of rules that I glossed over where you kind of like talk about marching order and things like that at the beginning, like passive initiative, so that like when combats come up, it goes quickly. But this notion of like moving quietly, it was just like, oh, I did not do a good enough job of painting a picture of like there could be monsters around every corner. I think that's what the module wants you to do. And so it's like, oh, I might need to be moving quietly at any time, because if the party isn't moving quietly, maybe you as the DM, it's like, oh, they didn't move quietly, I move the monster appearance rate closer. So it's like less stretches have to occur for the so like that can have use, but with these broad categories and like, the module here that was offered in the broadsheet doesn't really describe what space that's supposed to exist in. It describes what time it exists in. So it then becomes difficult to like do sort of theater of the mind. What does that 10-minute stretch look like, and how much space should it be? When I have a dungeon
Mhm.
sheet, like a very D&D dungeon sheet in front of me, I'm kind of like, okay, it's each room. But then I like look at the smaller rooms and I'm like, okay, they can't spend 10 minutes there. And so it's like
Yeah.
they spent 10 minutes moving quietly, but like they entered the second room and there were still no monsters. They entered the third room, there were still no monsters. Like they want to do other things in that 10
Yeah.
minutes. Um, in the video that I watched, the YouTuber, he explains like you could just do real world 10 minutes like if the players are just talking too much, and then you can like cut to another stretch. And so we played this very much rules as at our table, and it
Okay.
was kind of like how I did it was like, okay, I set up regions that I felt like made sense to be doing a thing in 10 minutes, and then like in interspersed in that 10 minutes it was like, okay, you interact with the trap, monsters appear, so you do your fight, like etc etc, and it just
Mhm.
felt very like checkers. Like it just felt very, okay, we're in this space, what do you do? Okay, you do that. It
Mhm.
like it kind of crushed the players want to do role play, and it honestly crushed my ability to do role play for them, because their character had to be doing like this arbitrary thing for that 10 minutes. So it's like
Mhm.
in my mind, it's like the real meat and the money of this is the 10-minute stretches, but I think they should probably always be run like in the background, so the DM has like a timer and then they mark their sheet like, oh, that was a 10-minute stretch, that was a 10-minute stretch,
Mhm.
right? Because things just happen easier in real time, at least at my table.
Mhm.
And then using the wandering monster sheet, because it means that instead of having to think up and populate this area with monsters, and then it feels like every fight is like, oh, we just did a long rest and we're using all our spells immediately, and the fight just continues, or like there's always goblins around that corner. For you as the DM, it's also a bit of a surprise because you're using this little like random encounter thing where
Mhm.
uh, it's like, oh, these monsters did appear, and then you don't even know what monsters are going to be. So it sort of keeps you from dice fudging in this interesting way where it's like, okay, like I just play straight to the sheet, and maybe they're fighting the hardest monster in the dungeon, but it like Baldur's Gate 3 players will know this. In the Underdark, there is a wandering monster. It's called the Bullet, and it's like a tough monster to fight, and it'll just show
Oh
up
yeah.
and like ambush the party.
Mhm.
Um, and so it like it gives you that option of like, oh, I as the DM don't even know, and then it makes the dungeon feel more alive for you as the DM. It makes the dungeon feel more alive for the players because they really don't know when different monsters are going to show up, so they can enter an arena and like, obviously, if you want there to be an encounter, just put it in there, but
Yeah.
like the majority of the dungeon can be empty. So if you set up that arena, maybe it's an encounter, but maybe it's also just an area where they're just like there's this tension because they expect an encounter,
Mhm.
and it never actually happens there. And then they get to the hallway beyond the arena, and suddenly they're rushed by 20 skeletons. Like
Yeah.
who knows? But like that's kind of the fun of this thing where you can just kind of like, and I even did so much where like as stretches went on, I would up the possibility of encounters, or in certain regions
Mhm.
where I wanted it to feel like, okay, this monster is stalking this environment. I was like, there's a higher chance to encounter it because that monster is like looking to ambush people in this space. So it's like the
Okay.
encounter roll is higher when they're in this space.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, if you want me to explain in a little greater detail, I can just say they went to this fort. The fort had it was in the middle of all this wildlife in the jungle. There's this invading force that had made this fort. It's just like wooden
Mhm.
palisades, very quickly constructed. They use a lot of magic to like dig up quarry stuff and like cut down lumber trees and everything else. And so they'd also
Mhm.
exposed some like ground poisons. So they had like intoxified themselves. So basically, as our adventurers come up to this fort, the idea is there's this heavily fortified thing with these like mage type characters who are like really tough to fight. And when they get
Mhm.
there, it's kind of screwed up. Like it's sort of overgrown.
Okay.
Like there's an infirmary that's like full of dudes that they find later on as they're going
Mhm.
through there, but um, the entire space, like there's wild creatures, there's things coming out from underground that the players are encountering too. There's a displacer beast that has come in from the jungles and is now stalking the grounds as well. This is one of the creatures that was like one of those higher rolls. And then there's like the guards who are trying to patrol and order this chaos, but there's so many things happening. And as you feel so often in like a battle royale video game where you're like, why is there no enemies? It's like it's just like ships passing in the night type thing of like, you know, you might think it would be like, oh, this feels empty, but it's like it's really actually like, oh, all these people are running around doing these different things. Like, when is the likelihood that you would actually cross paths? So
Yeah.
that's the flavor of the setting where we did this. And honestly, I thought playing the stretches thing was like the things I liked about it that I told you worked well, but then like the rigidity of like you have to be doing this thing for 10 minutes was kind of like the like kind of it really soured the whole thing for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just to like wrap it up with a little bow, you in the future are probably not going to use these rules.
I'm going to use a modified version of these rules, and I would suggest that everybody out there steals as much as they can and then modifies it to work for them. Like that's my big take. If you run a homebrew, somebody else's homebrew, and you don't like a thing about it, get rid of it.
Yeah, fix it. Make it fun for you. You know,
Yeah,
make it
yeah.
what you want out of this game too. Because like you're the DM, and like while your opinion is not the only opinion, your
Mm-hmm.
opinion does matter a lot as far as like your comfort in the game. So,
Yeah.
agree with that 100%.
And
Um, I
oh,
I think I'm.
go ahead.
Oh, sorry, sorry. You go. You go. You go.
Ask your players. Just like you don't always have to. You can surprise them. But like this was like a really big overhaul, so I was like, I sent them this and I said like, hey, this is what we're doing. Like, does anybody not want to do this? And if somebody told me they didn't want to do it, I would just find another place to test it.
Yeah, and I think that's healthy.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, just looking at this like at a glance, I think a lot of my issues are the same as yours. Whereas like the size of the room does matter, and I think like moving quietly for 10 minutes could be like thinking of like a real world situation. It could be strenuous. You could not have something to hide behind. Like if you're moving quietly like into a room and there's nothing to hide behind. Like, are you really that quiet? Like there's so many things like factor wise that make some of the rules tough.
Mm-hmm.
And like I do like the idea of having like 10-minute like increments of time and like using that to organize like okay, every 10 minutes the goblins move it over one room
Right.
or the patrol happens. And I think
Mm-hmm.
using that as a time-based system for dungeoneering, I love.
Mm-hmm.
I think there are ways to make the game move smoother
Mm-hmm.
to have like, okay, this activity might take about 5 minutes or it might take, half that time. So you can do two things, or you can do like this or that. Or you just kind of let them kind of do their own thing and then notch every 10 minutes. Or you have, I don't know if you've ever seen, I'll have to pull up a picture or something of like where they use like clothespins on a pole to like show initiative tracker.
Yes, I
It's
am
like an old
familiar with
school.
this. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So like you can use the same thing, but for like time. So you're like, oh, an hour's passed. Oh, like half an hour's passed. And you can kind of use
Oh.
those kind of things. And like there
Yeah.
are certain dungeons that like you can only go in and then at nighttime it gets infinitely harder. So like you're kind of tracking the time that way. And they're like, oh crap, we got to
They have
leave.
to
Right.
hurry
So
through it. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, like so I have a homebrew dungeon that I always run for like new players. It's called Under the Glass Rose.
Mm-hmm.
And it like they're allowed to do everything and it has like one challenge, one monster to fight, like one room that they got to solve a riddle. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's very user friendly, but
Mm-hmm.
because it has that like random monster encounter, it makes it different every single time. Right. And I think having the dungeon not feel like a cave, but feel like a dungeon, I think does make it a lot more fun and engaging for the players. So like I like that table, and I'll definitely be stealing that and using it. But I don't know if I'm going to fully commit to the stretches as far as like using them as written. So I
Hmm.
think I'm in the same boat as you, where it's like it's good, but it could be better. It's like life is good, but it could be better type situation. I mean, you
Yeah,
know.
there's good stuff here. It's just like maybe it's the OSR or whatever, but it's just like it's just a touch too rigid. But there's like
Yeah,
really
and
good
I
idea in there.
like I think it's good though. And I like the fact of like how they organized it and like time wise how it makes sense where like before we hopped on, I was like 10 minutes seems like a long amount of time. But if I'm searching for 10 minutes, like if I lose my keys and I look for 10 minutes, like that feels like a really long time, but also not that long at the same time. So
Right.
like it doesn't feel horrible from like an outsider perspective. It's just like if I'm searching a whole room, I feel like it could take more than 10 minutes. So it's,
Yeah.
there are levels, and there's ways to balance it out.
What we do these things for pacing in D&D where like we'll just skip over stuff. Like there's a lot of clunky
Yeah.
rules for like you can't switch the weapon that you have equipped unless it's an action, which like I don't know if that many people play that way.
Mhm.
Or like when you cast a spell, which the only place I've seen them actually like try to do this is Critical Role's second campaign, the Mighty Nine, which I'm sure
Yeah.
there are so many places that actually do this, but it's like
Mhm.
using the chromatic, somnatic like portions of a spell where it's like to cast Fireball you have to have guano, and so like in
Oh
Critical
yeah.
Role very early on they're like yeah they collect guano. They kind of drop the bit at a certain point, but like
Yeah.
early on
But like
it's
it was
it's
still there.
very
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like
And
I've only been in one like D&D group that actually did that.
mm-hmm.
And as soon as we dropped it, it was just infinitely better. But like
Right.
it also kind of made people like buy stuff more often. Like I guess it helped the economy, but like
Mm-hmm.
it was just kind of odd when you can just like have them say it. But like it also kind of it depends on your perspective of like is magic able to be used by everybody or just by people who can like afford it or people who can like find the items to use or like people that
Ooh.
actually work towards it, or is it like sorcerer where it's like you're just given the power and you know how to use it. They're like
Mm-hmm.
levels to kind of how you view the magic. So but
Right.
that's a conversation for another time.
I am very much interested in having that conversation on our next
Mhm.
episode. I have
Yeah.
actually kind of thought it up, so unless you have something that you're burning to talk about, um,
No.
this same YouTuber who made this video, who made the broadsheet, which by the way, if you've watched to the 42-minute point of this video, I do recommend. I do recommend, and I'll try to do this further up if we're reviewing a product, but like I do recommend purchasing this. Like the broadsheet, I think it costs like something around $4 or $12. I know it's very different, but the system that they've come up here is worth the money. You're supporting your creator. I think that's awesome. And there's a really good system in there, and you can break it open to work for your table at the end of the day. But the rules is written here with a sort of notion of like casting a spell is one of the 10-minute activities. It's like you think about all those reagents and everything else you need, and then like actual casting times and stuff, and like that's old school D&D to a T,
Mhm.
and that's what these rules were built for. So it totally makes sense to have these 10-minute activities. I think your notion of like searching for your keys was bang on, dude. um like yeah, it does take 10 minutes and it does feel like a long time, but it also feels like no time when you're like rushing to work. You're like, whoa, I've spent 10 minutes, which was,
Yeah.
oh my gosh. And that's just your house, right? So
Yeah.
like, and that could be just one room, hilariously
Yeah, well,
enough.
and that's looking for just one specific item. That's not ruffling through things and trying to like find out everything the room has to offer.
Hmm.
There's a lot.
But you play in a space of like compartmentalized time in D&D
Mhm.
because you're spending 2 hours, but you want like a long experience in the game setting. And so a lot of times like time in game will it ebbs and flows between this like it's either moving super slow in combat, like
Mhm.
like bullet time, or it's moving really fast in every other facet where it's like oh, we're going to spend an hour here traveling to this thing. It's like you bring up that dungeon timer. It's like, I've not had very many opportunities, which it would be fun to do, where it's like nighttime's in 4 hours. We're doing
Hmm.
10-minute stretches. Like, you got to
Yeah.
get through the dungeon before nighttime. And I think a lot of that's like, how do you get the players to feel that urgency in a game where
Hmm.
you can just take a long rest whenever you want.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. I mean, honestly, yeah.
and you build the rails up so it's like, yeah, there's some kind of arbitrary reason that you can't, or like if you stayed out here you would die, like kind of thing. There's a
Yeah.
lot of ways to make it clear to the player, but that's another thing where like D&D kind of struggles, which is like along the lines of what I want to talk about this next subject of like the notion of like long rest, short rest, marshals and spellcasters, and like how
Mm.
all of that works in like broad strokes, because
Okay.
there's so much I hadn't considered before, and I've been watching some videos recently that like have made me have a lot of thoughts on those things.
I was about to say something really, really bad right there, and it's. I'll tell you later.
Like I don't often
I've
have
been, I've
thoughts.
been, I, I've been watching these videos that just really changed my entire perspective, and I was like, I'll,
Hmm.
yeah, like,
Okay.
yeah, 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 yeah. Nothing, nothing.
Okay.
But no, like I agree. Like I'll watch creators and they'll have like really good ideas, and then I try to apply it, and it just doesn't work for me. And I don't
Hmm.
know if that's more so on me or more so on like their idea not being quality enough, or like the initial idea
Mm.
being really good, and like the end one not being as it's like one of those things. I
Can you give
mean,
me
I
an
kind of feel
example?
like let me think. I mean, for me, I would say because I know there was like a deck of many things type thing that got released. I'll have to find it. I'll have to see if I can remember the one specifically. But they were like, yeah, use this, or it was I think it was a tarot card thing actually,
Mm.
and so I ended up using it like in my session, and turns out like in combination with something else it was super broken. It didn't work out like it should have. I
Um,
mean, the deck of many things is not like great in some aspects to begin with,
yeah, it's
so like
chaos. It's
that
not built to be balanced.
exactly. But so like I think it was more on me in the sense that like I expected it to like be fun and like easy for the group, end up
Mm.
being like really messy and not as clean as I would have liked.
Yeah.
So like I kind of had to rework some few things. Had to like I never like to take items away, but I did have to like put a limit on it. And I'm like,
Mm.
hey, like the sword you got, like not in this aspect, but like, hey, this sword you got only has like 5 charges per day. You can't smite the entire city whenever you want to. Like, yeah,
Mm.
so I had to find limits, and I just feel bad when I do that because I have to like talk to the player and be like I either have to tell them that like, hey, this is too strong and you're getting nerfed, or I have to do it and then have them be angry at me somewhat because of that. It's like a tough balance between having them have fun but also not having them have unrestricted abilities that break the game. There's like
Yeah.
that balance.
Yeah. And we talked the previous time. I think uh, sort of sorry, in our conversation when we were setting up this podcast, I think there's so many weapons in your toolkit to pressure players to kind of like nerf things through gameplay. Like there's so many status
Mm,
conditions. You just need like you need to you need to force the players to have disadvantage at some point, and then that like
yeah.
Uber sword isn't so Uber anymore. But outside of that, I have also had to have the conversation of, because like then you're doing that for the rest of the game. It's easier for you to nerf one item than like change the whole rest of the game around
Yeah,
that.
change everything. Yeah.
Yeah, so I have recently, in the most recent campaign that I've been running, the longest running campaign of 5e for myself, I have had to nerf a couple of items because I was trying to come up with like fun systems, like homebrew out of my pocket, like you know, just out of my
Mhm.
mind. Like it wasn't like I wasn't referencing anything,
Yeah.
and the stuff got like really out of hand. I think somebody had a sword that was like giving him like a plus 14 to hit, and I was like, well, we can't have that.
Ooh, you're like, that's not
That
good.
is, yeah,
That's too much.
you will always hit the enemies at this point.
Yeah.
And one of my other buddies who's a little bit more crunchy on the rule side than I am was telling me about
Mm.
bounded accuracy and how like D&D 5e does that system and like at what levels it's appropriate for you to get items that are like +1, +2, +3.
Oh, I've never heard of that. So that's news to me, but that's also kind of a cool little
Yeah,
like thing to help the DM. Yeah.
it has to do with like challenge rating and how D&D does all that stuff. It's very like D&D is not a well-designed game. It does what it's supposed to do, but like it's a bit
Yeah.
broken. And so it's like you talk about these systems and it's like the way they've designed it is very goofy. But yeah, there's like
Yeah.
the intention behind it is like for there to be a limit on the ceiling of the numbers you get so that when you
Mhm.
put a certain challenge rating monster against a party, there is like a determinate outcome of like
Mhm.
this is a fight they should be able to handle. Or you
Interesting.
could
Okay.
tip that CR, right? You can look at it and be like, this is a fight they won't be able to handle. And maybe that'll be fun and
Yeah.
interesting. Maybe they'll get like really great dice rolls. So you kind of control that
Yeah.
lever.
Hmm. I've
Um,
never. Okay, that's something for me to look into because that actually sounds very healthy and very like good for running a game.
yeah, there's I'll send you a video after this. It's another YouTuber and I forget his name too, but he's like so funny. He does all these TikToks and reels. And he
Oh.
has this video where he like he talk it like the point of it is like the discussion we're having right now in like a short
Mhm.
form funny video, and he's like, yeah, you fight this alligator and the alligator puts you into a 1v1 and like he's like fighting you and his attacks can't miss and everybody's like, oh, that's just a main expansion from Jujutsu Kaisen the anime. And he's like, yeah, that's where I got it from. And he's like, okay, well, how like this is so broken, like there's no way we're gonna be able to beat this. It's like, okay, how much damage does it do? And it's like, it does like 2,000 damage. And one player is like, this fight is so hard. And then it's like, okay, I hit him back. And it's like, okay, well, you deal like 2 points of damage and he's dead. And,
You're like, what?
then the same player is like, this fight is so easy.
Oh
And
my
then
gosh.
it goes on to like describe like, okay, well, let's just play with one of the Wizards of the Coast monsters, which are also
Mhm.
terribly imbalanced. And
Yeah.
it's like it's a mind flayer and he uses a mind blast. It's like, oh, okay. And it's like so do a wisdom saving throw and they're all like, thank God, this is my dub stat, which is like funny because like they like how much the wizard stuff sucks because it's the suck they know versus like the stuff the person is coming up on the fly. Because like
Oh.
wisdom being your dump stat, that means it's your lowest stat, right? So it's like they
Yeah.
all get just uber nuked by this mind flayer and like total party killed, and they're like, that was a good combat. Like
You're
afterwards,
like, what?
so
That's
it's
so
like,
interesting. Yeah.
yeah. Um, yeah, sorry not to take up too much of our runtime re-explaining a video that everybody can watch that I'm probably gonna link in the doobly doo anyway. Um,
Yep. Down in the doobly doo.
yep. But no, it's like it is an interesting. There is an interesting notion. I know we're beyond the broadsheet now, but there is that interesting notion of like when do you nerf your players' items, and like obviously you want to do that as little as possible, and like or
Yeah.
not at all if you can avoid it. But definitely if you're getting into the homebrew space, I think there you get to a point where it's like it's rebalanced, and I always try to give the players something good about it if I'm taking something
Mhm.
else away, but I try to make that like the smallest number that it can be of that like
Yeah.
thing that's good about it. So
Yeah. Well,
gems. Oh, go ahead.
oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, no,
No,
please
no, I
do.
was gonna say like I think people are more open to giving something up if they get something back in return. And
Yeah.
if you just take something away and it feels like a punishment for something that they didn't do,
Mm-hmm.
they're getting punished for playing the game is what it feels like.
Yeah.
Because not everyone has that DM perspective of like
Mm-hmm.
this is not good for the health of this game.
Hmm.
They're like, oh, like, you you gave me this, why is it my fault that I have this now? So you kind of have to balance that and also give them something in return. Like, I don't want to say
Hmm.
give them a level up, but you could be like, hey, I'm taking this away, but in the next encounter, just like loot the body, see what happens. I mean, you don't have
Yeah,
to tell them, but you can also kind of like make them feel like they're not losing out.
yeah. Unfortunately, like you're you're gonna have to. You don't want to give people an arrow that casts fireball and they have an infinite supply of them. And when you've done
Exactly.
that, you're gonna have to take it away from them.
Yeah.
And um, yeah, you don't want them to like oh, why am I getting punished for the item that I have? But you have to the thing that you have to give them in return, other than like something else, like we just talked about, maybe a different magic item or like a different stat on that item, is an
Hmm.
explanation, which is like, look, we're playing this game at this table. You are outside of the rules right now, and if you
Yeah.
continue to exist outside of the rules, everybody else is gonna lose engagement, right? Like, and that's not your fault, but don't you want to like be in line with everybody else and kind of like, don't you want to give them moments to shine where you like rely on them? Like, we're all sitting here at the table playing together. Like, if I give you the sort of a thousand truths, like, well, you might as well go play a solo adventure. And if I'm accidentally
Yeah.
giving you the sort of a thousand truths, like, don't think I'm coming at you personally. I'm coming at you in a way where it's like I'm trying to make sure that everybody has a fair shake playing here and gets to have a moment in a session.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, and this kind of speaks back to like just the health of a group, that if
Mm-hmm.
you have players who are only about themselves, they're not
Mm-hmm.
going to be good D&D players, even if they have the worst items or the best items, So like having people
Yeah.
that are willing to do that to help the health of the group, I think are the people you do want at your table. So
Mm-hmm.
hopefully they're open to that, or they're willing to have that conversation with you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even if they're opposed to it, give them a good reason. Or like, if you're like, okay, I'm only gonna pull out this weapon, if we're about to die. If
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna, like, if I need to, then I'll do it. And you're like, okay, well, that's a balancing act of their own accord, and that can help them keep their agency as far as feeling like they're still a player in this world. So
Yeah, yeah,
one thing to think about too. Hmm.
right. I'm always partial to this idea of like the item suddenly breaks, but like you have to build the narrative stakes to like make that
Yeah.
meaningful in a way. I think more larger ideas, which is like another conversation that we could go on like another time.
Yeah.
But it's like player perspectives are really interesting. So the best thing you can do as a DM is spend a little bit of time to ask your players how they're feeling about the game and what they think they're excelling at or where they're trying to bring their players later
Hmm.
on. I have been so surprised by people's notions of things, and again, I think this all goes around that the conversation we're gonna have later about like marshals and mages and like how they all play
Hmm.
around each other. But it's like I'm sitting here at a table perceiving that somebody is like hands down the strongest character in the party. It's like kind of running
Yeah.
away from me a little bit, but they're still within the bounds of the game. I'm just like, wow, they've just min maxed it to that like that tier.
Yeah.
And there's nothing like let them be successful if they enjoy being successful. Let them be successful. But then they came to me and
Yeah.
they were like, I don't think I'm doing as much damage as the rest of the party. And I was like, well, like you're the one
What?
on one guy. You're the guy who's gonna win every one on one. Let the mages clear the room. You know, if I've set up a
Hmm.
scenario with like a bunch of enemies who are like 4 HP and the mage throws a fireball in the room, and it's like 20 guys, yeah, they're gonna get a 20 kill fireball. Don't think like I'm weak because he just killed 20 guys at one time. Like that mage could throw that same fireball at the one target, and like he's got. I know I'm using mage, wizard,
Yeah.
spellcaster.
Whatever.
Um,
Yeah.
like uh he's always going to be outclassed by you because you're like the fighter. You can action surge. You hit consistently 20 damage. Like you action surge with extra attack. You do 80 damage to a single target. Where like he's doing 30 damage to a lot of targets, but like can't do more than 30 damage to like one target, right? So
Yeah.
like there's a trade off there. Deeper conversation to be had about that,
Yeah.
but and I have other use cases, but that was just sort of my
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
I like my only thing I'll add, and then we'll obviously talk about it in a future time, that like
Mm-hmm.
making sure that your players each feel like they're contributing and that there's challenges built for them to succeed in
Mm-hmm.
helps with that too. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
100%.
Oh, and let me put a bow on that, just like because
Mhm.
we're talking about concepts we talked about earlier too. That idea of like what Brendan Lee Mulligan says of like use your character's stuff. There's always this like thought of like, oh, I want to start a D&D campaign, so I want to like make this setting, and it's like all you.
Mhm.
Don't make a setting for you. Whoever the players are who are at the table, make a setting for them. Like,
Yeah.
uh, you should be using their stuff. You should be designing the setting for them in a way that like uses their stuff, right? So all this sort of fills
Mhm.
back into where the like they feel important and strong because of that. And then like if the rogue who doesn't really interact with combat encounters as like like give the rogue a session where like they do all the cool shit and everybody else is kind of taking a backseat,
Yeah.
like just as Austin said, just as you said, Austin, um, like give them the attention. Like don't leave a player sidelined.
That's that's so funny because like I was just about to bring up that like from like a coaching perspective, which fit in perfectly with sideline.
Mm,
That like it's the same thing for that. It's like if you have players on your JV team, on your reserve team that aren't getting attention, they're going to leave or they're not going to enjoy their time with you. But even if you like just check in with them or you talk in or you like maybe not design a practice for them, but you will like allow them to feel seen and heard, they're going to stay. So
mm-hmm.
exact same thing for I mean, like I think being a coach and being a DM, there's a lot of similarities as far as like managing people and creating a good experience that like overlap so much. Like the
Mm-hmm.
things that I applied to coaching that got from being a DM, wild.
Yeah.
Absolutely crazy.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a really good point. I'm in a leadership class right now, which is like goofy. I've done leadership in life,
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
so there's a guy who sits up near the front, and he always talks about how coaching is like a that's like a really good leadership thing. Thing that we don't talk about at D&D tables is like there is a degree of leadership that can be applied. So that I think that's why those same coaching principles. Um, work. But even more so than that, like being a coach, you are part of a community. There's like a communal aspect to D&D that like you
Oh
know
yeah.
you can't like I don't know if this is the right idiom, but like you can't have your cake and eat it too. Like you can't be Belgathor, the level 10 dude with the dark slaying deep darkness blade, and you don't talk to anyone, and if people talk to you, you kill them on sight and like come to the table and have a good time.
Yeah.
You
I mean,
gotta
honestly, what do you expect to happen there? Like you
right.
don't want to talk to anybody, and then well, because so like not to get too deep in it, but like we've had players in the past that like leave, and they're like, yeah, I just didn't make any friends here. It's like
Mm-hmm.
you don't leave your room. Like, what do you mean? It's the same
Right.
thing. Like you're not setting yourself up to be successful if you bring this character that doesn't want to be in a group.
Right.
Like D&D is group oriented. Why are you not wanting to be? Ugh, drives me insane. It's crazy.
Talk to people and then pass the ball, buddy. Pass the ball. Like let like when a player is like, well, what does Reagan think about that? Like, what does this other player think about that? I'm like, oh, he's passing the ball. I love that.
Yeah, yeah. Or if they're like talking to someone and they're like, oh, you're a mage. Let me grab my mage to talk to you because that'll make them easier. And you're like, oh my god, like this isn't just about you. You're using the group. Like,
Yes.
it's amazing. It's
Yes.
so it makes you feel so much better as a DM to have players that like enjoy the group aspect of it. I love
Yep.
it.
Yep. And we are just over time here. So, on that note, thank you for joining us for the Table Talk podcast. We will
Mhm.
probably see you next month. You got any
Yeah.
parting shots here for the folks, Austin?
Yeah. Just thanks for stopping by, and I'm looking forward to doing this a little more with one of my best buds, Miles. So I'm excited.
All right.